so today we're talking about a concept that we've already somewhat mentioned before, but last week, but we're going to talk about it some more and go a little in depth and talk about some specific ways to combat it. And that concept is color constancy. And we were supposed to have done this one last week and the gamut lecture this week. I don't think anybody caught that, but oh, you did catch it? You should have told me. Because the gamut would have made a little more sense after this week, and now we're going to kind of backtrack and talk a little bit about information that we talked about last week, since I reversed the order of the lectures on accident. So that's okay. It's just going to help you reinforce some of what we talked about last week. So the topic is color constancy. So the human eye, as we somewhat mentioned before, has the uncanny ability to register what we see and disregard its influence of various effects to tell our brain what the local color of something is. James Gurney has a great little section in his book called Color and Light, which I have. I did get a copy of it here for you guys to look at today, where he talks about color constancy. And he mentions how a fire truck, for example, will look fire engine red if it's in the morning, if it's in the afternoon, if it's at dusk, if it's half in shadow, like half in cast shadow, half in light. We still look at it and register the whole thing as red. If the fender is dented and catching various lights, we still look at the fender and see that it looks red. These are all clues, context clues we pick up that tell our brain that what we're looking at is red. So it's really all the surrounding information is all kind of pieced together in our head to tell us what the local color of everything is. Now last week we talked about gamuts, creating believable color situations. Well, they're believable color situations because all the colors are related enough for our brain to be able to interpret what the local color is. So that's why a gamut works. And so we looked at creating them last week, and this week we're going to end up looking at how to, when we're observing a gamut, how to then not be influenced by the light source and objectively view the colors instead of being subjectively influenced by all the context clues. So we have a couple optical illusions here, and we're going to work with these illusions today. I'm working with one here downstairs, but I don't want to work with the one you guys are working with because I need to encourage you guys to try and overcome the illusion and actually paint what's there. So to describe this idea of color constancy, when we look at what we have up here on the board here, the two cubes. And these are theoretically cubes of the same color pattern, just shifted in different light sources, like we looked at with the gamuts last week, a green light versus a red light. Now, all of the colors look fairly constant. Like we recognize that it's a yellow corner, a red corner, a blue corner. I think this was supposed to be just gray, so it's under heavy influence by the light, so we would probably say that's gray. And then it's sort of repeated over here, but everything is keyed to be greens. So when we look over here, like everything has kind of a greenish tint to it. But this is all an illusion based off of the context clues we're picking up from all the surrounding information. And what's interesting about this illusion is that if we were to isolate the colors that we see here, we would notice, for example, that this color is the same neutral gray as this color here. But the color constancy in our brain is going to fight with you and tell you that is a green square and that is a red square. And so your task today and from this moment forward in painting is to not be tricked by what you think the local color is under the influence of light. So what we talked about last week, the gamut, was to help you achieve a painting of a believable unified colors. This week, we're going to look at observing something and not being tricked by it. Because we're trying to replicate the colors that we see and create an illusion. So we can't be confused by the illusion we see. And this is and Gurney even mentions it in his book, this is a big challenge for students in art school who are tasked with observational painting. If you're only observing or painting what you observe, and you're not told about some of these alternate influences of color, and he even lists a few more things that are going to affect your color perception that we won't really have time to get into. If you aren't aware of that, and you just paint what you think you are observing, then you're going to paint this as a green square, and you're going to paint that as a red square. So, how do we not be confused? How do we look at that and know what the actual colors are without being tricked by the context clues? Isolate, yes. And this is something that I haven't really seen anybody doing so far in this class, but hopefully after today's lecture, you'll be very encouraged to do it, because today, as you work upstairs in class, it will pretty much point out where you haven't been isolating enough to mix the appropriate color. So I'm going to sort of just do a quick rundown of a little painting here where I've isolated I'm isolating colors as I go to achieve the proper mixtures. Again, I'm just going to go off of my concepts of just red, yellow, and blue to mix these efficiently and quickly. So pull out your color charts that you have to help you mix the color, because there's no point in struggling on how to mix the color. We've spent 6 weeks learning how to mix color. So by now you need to be pretty good at it, or if you're not good at it, just bring in your 6 color charts that you have done up to this point, and that'll give you most of the colors that you see on here. And then you're going to be spending most of your time getting into the habit of isolating, matching, and then putting down what you observe. So if you still have your isolator left over from drawing class, hopefully it's in your toolbox and you're using it. The one that you had copied from the textbook and had laminated, that will be your best bet for isolating your colors here. It had was it the white, the black, and the gray. So all of those will be able to give you the isolation of dark colors, of mid-value colors, and of light colors appropriately. So utilize that today, pull it out, make sure you use it a lot.
That's the chart, I mean, that's the scale.
No, it's the isolator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you put the whole one. Another fast way to do it is people will just do this. You'll see me do this all the time to check your guys' colors. When I come by, I'm like, I don't know if that's right, and I'll go like this, and it needs to be lighter, darker, more red, more yellow, more blue. If you're wearing white gloves like this, I can do a white isolator. Flesh tone, you have to compare it to your skin tone to see, but it all works in principle the same way. James Gurney says that sometimes people also, use 2 fingers and just sort of isolate like that. So use whatever you've got. If you didn't bring your isolator today, I just suggest taking a white piece of paper, folding it over enough so that it looks like it's pure white, punching a hole through it, and then just using that as you go today. What's that?
Are you one of those viewfinders?
The viewfinder might work as long as you have enough of a field around the hole so that you're not influenced by exterior colors. Even a postcard, if you get a postcard that's blank on the back, that's a heavier stock, you can punch a hole in that and then use that as an isolator. That'll work really well. Or I don't know, value scale from
paint chips.
Yeah, value scale from Home Depot. Like if you go and get pick up a gray scale one, right, and then punch right through there. Just go to a different Home Depot so you don't all clear out the same color at once. So any of those are viable options, whatever's most convenient for you to carry. Again, if you get it laminated like you did with the drawing one, then it'll last quite a bit longer. So I'm just going to draw this in quickly with a pencil, like we did last week, and you can go ahead and do that upstairs as well. And then I'm just going to jump right into doing this here. Again, I'm not concerned at all with your drawing. I need to make sure you get into the color aspects today. It's not very cubish, that's all right.
How many of these are we going to be doing? Just one or?
You're going to be doing a set like this.
Okay.
So you'll have one on one side and one on the other. And at the end of the day, I will reveal to you if you matched the correct colors. Because like this one, there are two pieces that are the same color. And on the one you're going to do upstairs, it's not labeled which one's the correct color. So you're just going to kind of be mixing it, and at the end I'll be able to tell if you isolated it properly, because you'll either have matched those two colors or you'll have not matched those two colors. You'll have painted them significantly different if you didn't isolate.
So we're going to be finding the true local color regardless of the over color?
No, you're not. It's not the local color. You're finding the true color with the light condition. Your brain is trying to tell you what the local color is. You're trying to not do the local color.
Okay.
Stupid brain. Stupid brain.
Yeah.
Good for nothing.
Be nice to everybody.
That's the way it takes.
Okay. Good enough. And then down to our bristle brushes here to do our color mixing. So I can start with something simple like the background. Big, large shapes are typically going to be the easiest ones for you to get, and if you do those first, you'll have a higher success of getting the small shapes. One of the things that James Gurney mentions influences our perception of color is the size of the shape. We noticed last year with drawing how the size of the shape could alter our perception of its value. Small, dark shapes just appeared really, really dark because we couldn't really identify the value, so sometimes those were knocked in too dark. The same sort of thing can happen with colors. So go with the biggest, easiest color to do first, and then work back from there. So I'm going to use the most basic isolator we can get. There we can see the actual color of it. Actually, it looks kind of dark, darker than I might have thought. But that's what happens when you're using a small shape like that. So that can help me select here, rub some of that in, and then I go like this. I compare. Is the color I put in? Actually, I'm going to use that just in here. There we go. Is the color I put in correct, or is it too dark? I go back and forth. It's too dark, and it's also a little too blue. I just go with a lighter red that's also has a little more yellow to it, and that should help to resolve that. Maybe a little more.
Are we getting more?
What's that?
We're not getting that particular one?
Nope. No, you're getting a different one. I don't want to show you how to mix
I'll
up.
take notes.
I'm not going to give away everything. You got to have some fun. Okay, so
Other colors are searched.
there and there. I'm getting closer. I'm probably a little too chromatic right now, but that's all right. Maybe a little blue. Notice how I'm not thinning my color down, right?
Yeah.
Now, I won't be concerned with you getting the 100% exact color. This really is a color sketch, but you need to at least be in the right color family. Like as we can see, you might be tricked out of the color family. So that's what I'm checking to make sure. You know, your exact amount of red, yellow, and blue is not going to be super important, but if you're tricked into going outside of the correct color family, then that's not a good sign. So that's what we want to watch out for. So don't stress out like with this background of making it, spending so much time on it to get it perfect that you don't paint anything else. That doesn't make any sense.
And do you want the actual base and the shadow too? Because you're painting down the side of it, that's why I'm asking. See how it's light in your...
Oh yeah, no, I'm painting that.
Okay.
Painting the light in there. Needs to
Okay.
be a little more yellow. So again, I'm doing a certain amount of color mixing, you know, right on the page,
Okay.
because yeah, it's pretty close. Needs to be a little lighter, a little more yellow. Color isolate, color isolate, color isolate. Now, understand that in my head, I've done this for so long that I isolate the color really well without using an isolator. But it took me 3 years of painting at the palette and chisel to be able to do that. I had to earn that. So until you get really good at that, I do not suggest ever leaving your isolator at home. You know, always bring that isolator. Oh no. Oh no. So, okay. If you hadn't isolated, you might not have known to put enough yellow in there to make it that sort of salmon color, right? That isolation is going to help you not only achieve the right color family, but it will ultimately, when you're working on longer paintings, help you to achieve the exact color that you're needing to get. Isolate in here, so I can see the difference. Yellowish, more reddish. Back to our red. A little bit darker. I think you need to go a little bit lighter up here. I think a little more yellow in there? Yeah, a little bit more yellow. A little lighter towards the tip. A little more yellow as well. Use this guy instead. Okay, and then I can go back up to there. That's still way too dark. So a new puddle of lights. There we go, that's better. That's about right. Isolate that. Isolate that. I'll also close one eye and let my open eye go out of focus. That helps. That's one way that I isolate without using the isolator, but I'll do it even with the color there, or the isolator there, so I can really make sure that I'm hitting the right color. I might as well see, so now with the isolator I can see that I just need to go a little bit darker there, and about the same amount of yellow and red. Maybe something like over here. This guy? No, that's too dark. Some lights a little bit. Something like that. And these are probably all pretty similar. These optical illusions aren't designed to be complex to paint. You know, just like the spheres we painted last week, once you figured out the one side, you should be pretty good to just knock in the color of all the similar values. So in this case, these would be the white squares under the influence of the red light. A little more yellow. And these are actually, this is actually painted by James Kearns. This is one of his little sample demonstrations. If you get his color and light book, it's in there. Or even just go to his website, Gurney Journey.
Gurney Journey.
The Gurney Journey. He has this illusion as well as a few others. One of which is on his website, or he has a link on his website to one that we're going to look at today, upstairs.
At this point, we don't have to fill everything in perfectly square, just get blobs of paint.
Yeah, I don't care about your drawing
Okay.
at all. Just make sure you paint them up to each other so you can see their relationship next to each other while you do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like this here, I need to paint it up to it so I can see if I've got the right relationship there and there. Pretty close. Maybe I could go probably a hair lighter on the left one. If you use the color isolator, you'll be able to jump around. I know how much you all like to jump around your painting and not work in one spot to resolve it all the way. So if you're not isolating, then essentially when you jump to a new area, you're being tricked by all the surrounding colors that are on your reference but not on your painting, and then you're tricked into painting a color that's incorrect. If you work in the same area, you sort of build the correctness in as you go. If you don't work in the same area, you have to isolate. If you're jumping around, you have to isolate or else you'll be tricked.
Have you used any blue at all?
Any blue? No. I'm just doing reds and modulating the red shift and yellow shift with the red that I'm using. Okay, and then our top ones are a little lighter. They're more like this guy back here. Let's get back into him. It's going to be off-white. There we go. Yeah. Let's see if that's about right. Yeah. Here. Whites you'll find are some of the hardest colors to maintain as being white because if you get a dab of color in them, they go darker instantly. So you notice like every time I get a white puddle and start to introduce little bits of color, it gets too dark, so then I have to go back to a new white puddle each time. All right, so let's go back here, start isolating. Now I can see how neutral gray that color is. No longer looks as much of the green that it looks when I take it away. And hence the importance there of isolation there. So that's going to tell me which red, yellow, and blue to use up here. Let's see. It's probably more blue. Maybe a little white in there.
And the value told you which one to use. The value.
Yeah, you know, I would be using my King's Blue range, but I don't have my King's Blue, so I'm basically having to add white to this guy. So that's too greenish. So a little more red. That's getting closer.
Oh, whoops, we just lost a bit.
Oh no, that's all right. That's pretty close. It's probably a little too dark though. Yeah. Very too dark. You wait. Bad green. Okay, let's try this one here. That's better. Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe a little more red, a little more blue. Just a little. Still a little more red, a little more blue. It's interesting, I keep going more and more purple in my mixture, even though that's kind of telling me that it's a green square. That's pretty close now. Just a little more red, a little more blue. If I had not color isolated, I would not have gone to this extent of purple. There we go. No, more blue, more red. There we go. That's about right. And I'm just going to jump around the dark side a little bit. Let's isolate this guy. Fairly dark blue. A good amount of red in it. A slight greenish tint to it. Remember that a lot of these colors are not, like the blue is, none of these blues really are pure blue. They're all like a blue with a little bit of red shift or a little bit of yellow shift in them. So I can say something like, okay, I need blue with a tiny bit of yellow and then a little bit more red. I might end up only using a blue and a red if I select a blue that has a little bit of yellow in it already, like that, as a starting. No, more blue. There we go. Let's try something like that. Darker and more blue.
And do you have to compensate for what's already down there too a little bit?
In the puddle?
No,
Probably,
on
yeah.
your painting itself.
Oh,
Because you're-
yeah, a
because
little
you're-
bit.
yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm pushing this a little more blue than I anticipate it to be because I'm just going to mix right onto it.
Right.
Get something like that. It's pretty good. not even gonna bother with that little occlusion shadow. I'm just gonna do a couple more here and then I wanna jump to the other side. Red, let's see if we can get this red here. Oh, that's almost the background red, huh? We're into that.
Yeah, it's just a bit dark. It's pretty close.
Pretty, yeah. It's just about right. Leaving little gaps of white may throw off your perception of what the color is. Keep that in mind, because if you leave the little gaps of white, like I'm doing in some of these when they're not completely painted, that's actually going to act as a white balance on your canvas, and you're going to think your color is not the color that you're painting. You're going to think your color is this new color compared to white, which if you isolate enough, you'll be fine. But if you paint that way and you leave little pieces of white, then you're actually going to hurt your ability to create this illusion. So I'll go back and bring out just a little bit of filler in there, etc., etc. Oh, I'm going to have to pull out a different color for that one. Maybe we'll do this one here, this last one, which that is, it's a blue family with a little bit of green and then enough red to neutralize. So, blue family, let's get a little lighter, a little bit of green in here. Oh, my brush isn't red. So here we go. That's better. A little bit of blue in there. Yellow. Value-wise, I'm still a little dark, I think. There we go. Let's see. So one of the things Gurney says you can do, which is interesting, and if you're going to use disposable color isolators, you can do is this, right? Like that. Oh, I know exactly how much I need to add of what. Let's just mix these together. See how easy that was? Color mixing's a snap now. Let's just add some of that there. See if we're closer. Closer. We can go a little more red, right?
I guess if it's laminated, you can just wipe it off.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have your laminated one from drawing here, that's pretty close. Then this should certainly be pretty darn easy. There we go. That's it. There's my color. And do that by combine that with your knowledge of red, yellow, blue, and your arrangement of value colors on here, and doing a master copy where you're trying to match the colors should be a snap.
I tried without an isolator, it wasn't so much of a snap.
Yeah, you're probably getting tricked a little too much. Let's throw down quickly some colors back here. But notice how look at the purple. That's the color I made for the green. That purple is green up there because of color constancy.
It doesn't look like green. You keep saying green. Is it because you're looking at the other one that's green? Because
Well, in
the
the
red one
context
looks
of
blue.
here, this looks greenish, that looks greenish, that looks blue. Yeah, we'll see what you guys say upstairs when I get you to do optical illusion. I've been saying this so much, I've been isolating it enough for you guys that now, oh yeah, I see it's purple. But that doesn't look purple in the context of all the other colors. Anyway, same idea with this other one here. What time are we
Can you
at?
hold your isolator up to the two that you think are the same? Because I absolutely cannot see that.
1025?
The reds?
Well, that
This one
bottom
here?
one there, yeah.
And this one here. They are the same.
Same.
It's your
That's wild.
Your brain's messy,
Yeah.
you can be in.
It really is messy.
Yeah.